We are back, people. Welcome to the revolution. Will not be televised. It will be live streamed. This is the place where we have the conversation. I don't care what other podcasts, video podcasts you've been watching. This is the place we have the conversation about life, leadership, and sometimes even love in a digital world. It's a joy to be here with you. I know y'all missed this. As a matter of fact, I can already hear the applause. Okay, I knew y'all missed this. I know. Thank you. We are your hosts, Ricky Allmon, and the one, the only, the inimitable, the didactic, the prolific, the erudite, Stephen J. Thurston II. Yes, and I have the mic, so he don't get to introduce me. So he just got to sit there and smile like he's doing right now. But we're glad to be back. Stephen, how you doing, man?
Man, it's good to be here. Always a pleasure to connect with you, Ricky, to learn and to glean from you as we help the people. We're helped as well. That's the great piece about this thing that we do. We're learning and growing as we're trying to help people learn and grow. Season 2, excited that people wanted us to come back.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to hear good content, man. So we're excited about our listening audience that tune in. And if you're wondering who this is for the egos, not the chickens. This is for the people who are ready.
Hold on. You starting early. Say that one more time, please.
This is for the egos, not the chickens. The people who are ready to fly high, to soar to other heights, to experience some altitudes that they've never experienced before, for leaders, positions of power, for the politicians, for the church leaders, for the business leaders. If you've got influence over people, you need to be participating and partaking in what we're giving here on the revolution, because it's going to change your lens, it's going to change your perspective, your mindset. And once you change what's within, Ricky, you can always change what's around.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
what we ultimately do with the revolution, not being televised, but being streamed.
Yes.
And so we're here to help you grow today.
And there are 3 things that we focus on this platform, and it's really going to be the focus of our conversation today. And that is, we want to, number 1, help you maximize whatever it is that you have in your professional toolkit, whatever it is you have in your passion toolkit. We want you to maximize it. Number 2, we want you to mobilize. It's not enough just to know what you got. You got to know how to use it and who you need to share it with, because you can't share it with everybody. You got to know to share it with. And then number 3, we want you to multiply. Let me make that plain. That means we want you to be stacking something. And we're not talking about bricks. We want you to see some fruit in your life that will create generational wealth for your family. And on that note, our topic today is point your pivot. Stephen and I, in season 1, spent quite a few conversations. And if you missed any of those conversations, you can go to the Ricky Allmon YouTube channel and just click the revolution. We got a whole playlist there. I don't know how many episodes, Stephen, we record. I was like 30 episodes. It's a lot.
Yeah, something like that, 32 episodes.
It's a lot of them.
We were getting it in.
Yeah, we put in our work. So we had to take a vacation because y'all worked us right in the middle of the first wave or second, whatever wave it was. Y'all worked us in that wave. And so what we want to deal with today is we want you to evolve in your pivot. We spent a lot of conversations talking about how to pivot in season 1, ways to pivot. We brought on other guests that model for you what that pivot looked like. Now we want you to put a point on it. And so we're both preachers. And so one of our occupational hazards is we got to put a tag on text. We got to put a tag on topics.
Always.
Whatever it is, we got to put a tag on it. So here's the tag today. What are you going to do with that? Since you made a pivot, since you've become more technologically inclined, since you've streamlined your SOP, your standard operating procedure, now let's put a point on it to see where you're going from here. So here's what I need you to do right now. I need you to like this, number one. Number two, I need you to share this, particularly if you're watching on Facebook. Go ahead and share this to your page, start a watch party. And I need you to call all the eagles around you. Now, I hope most of you are surrounded, well, all of you, I hope you're surrounded with more eagles than chicken.
Yes, sir.
Because chickens just like to feed off your life. Eagles like to serve to help you produce for your life. Let me say that again.
Yes, sir. Please
Chickens
do.
just feed off your life. They sometimes they can look like they want to act like they're eagles only until you decide to change. When you decide to change, you realize they're just chickens. Because as long as you hanging where they hanging, as long as you feeding whatever it is they want to do,
that's it.
Then you may mistake them for being just like you.
Correct.
But as soon as you decide, no, I got to break out from this chicken coop. I got to break out of average. I got to break out of mediocrity. You discover real quickly, oh my goodness, I've been surrounded by chickens. And so you might need to do a bird call in your life and see if the folk around you are chickens or eagles. One thinker said this, Stephen. He said, we are the average of the 5 people closest to our life.
That's correct.
That's something to think about. We're the average of the 5. The 5 people closest to my life are all eagles. I try to keep chickens at a distance. I'll give them some feed every now and then.
Yes, sir.
But I got to soar, and so I want people around me that's soaring. Stephen, you and I have been reading a book called Mapping Innovation.
Yes.
We started reading it a few months ago. As a matter of fact, it became fodder and sort of seed for this conversation. I don't know what that was. It's technology. Let's give them an encapsulation. We want to encourage you. If you have not read the book, some of y'all say, I never even heard of it. Well, you've heard of it now.
That's
it's
right.
called Mapping Innovation. It's a playbook for innovative thinking, innovative leadership, and it's written by Greg Sattel. We'll put it somewhere in the caption, but you want to get it. But we're going to use this just as a so if we were using the Bible, we'd say it's a theological premise. In this case, this is a psychological premise, a sociological premise, but we want something to help shape how you think as you point your pivot. So, Stephen, walk us from there. Let's start from mapping innovation and then walk out from there as we point this pivot.
For sure, man. I think this is important, and let me use this as my foundational point to launch from. Discipline without direction leads to drudgery. I'll back up and say it again.
I appreciate it.
You got it. Discipline without direction leads to, once you find yourself in that place of drudgery, that's where we quit.
Right.
Some of you all decided, hey, let me drop some of this COVID weight that I picked up over the past 16, 17 months. And you have to discipline, begin going to the gym. But that discipline, once you lost the direction, when you did not have a goal, a specific goal that you were working towards, and you were mapping it out along the way with milestones set in place, going to the gym on those days where I'm just not feeling it became, I stay home, I'll double up next time, and it never happened.
Right.
And the same thing has happened with many people in leadership and in life when it comes down. They started off, okay, I think I'm gonna do this. I gotta change. We need to change, but they had nowhere that they were driving the change towards, and so they've gotten lost in the process. And one of the key pieces.
Stop right there. You got it. You already dropping bombs, and we seconds in. I need you to repeat that part right there, because they're making changes, but they're not directing it anywhere. It's almost. And I think we don't think about that when it comes to change. Sometimes if you're not careful, you could be making change for the sake of change, but it's not changing anything. So just elucidate that a little more.
Yeah, there has to be a focused direction in everything that we do, because every step that we take is going to lead us down a particular path. And
Mhm.
we've got to make sure that the decisions that we're making today are leading us towards the destiny that we desire for tomorrow. Everything matters. Every thought, every step, every move, every decision, every relationship that form, it all matters because it's taking us somewhere.
Right.
And we've got to make a determination on the front end where we want the back end to be. Otherwise, I mean, we'll just find ourselves walking and wandering,
Mhm.
never getting to a specific place or point in life, in leadership, in business, whatever it is that we're engaged in. And so, one of the key pieces that I picked up in the book as I was reading was a quote by Albert Einstein. And he said that if I had 20 days to solve a problem, I would spend 19 days defining it. That spoke to me, Rick, as a professional project manager.
Right. Right.
There are 5 phases to every project:
Right.
initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closing. Step number 2, planning, is where 70% of one's time ought to be
Mhm.
before you move to that place of execution so it's smoother. And so, what Einstein is saying, I'm spending all my time planning and working out and putting the proper framework in place so that when it's time to pull the trigger, make the decision, everything ought to flow. Everything ought to be smooth, and my expected end ought to be where I end up because I've thought about this thing thoroughly. That circles us back to the point of the question that we're raising today, the point of your pivot. What you gonna do with that? Because we've got to make a decision. What have we been doing for the past 17 months? Have we been planning and structuring and reshaping things with the particular end in mind? It's by framing problems effectively that we can find the approach that's most likely to solve the problem.
Right. Right.
If we just kind of been wandering around, you're gonna stay wandering around.
Right.
And the key piece from this book that you're going to pick up is that innovation is a combination of things. So often people think, oh, there was a big idea and then the world shifted and changed. No, there was a bunch of little stuff that happened. There were a bunch of errors and mistakes that were made
Right.
that eventually led to the place of the shift taking place. And so, again, that goes back to having discipline, lead to drudgery, because there'll be some points where it may not make sense now.
Right.
But if you keep pushing forward, it's going to make sense down the road. Or what doesn't make sense, put you in a position to shift again, to pivot again, so that you can continuously evolve and enhance the work to the place where, boom, it all comes together and it all makes sense, because innovation isn't a path, it's an ecosystem.
See, okay, so that's where we got to go. So I think we you set us up perfectly as you do in your inimitable way. I think the thing that we want leaders, eagles, to understand is that as we move in this era of change, so this is not a moment, this is not a season, this is
Yes.
an era, and an era is a line of demarcation that indicates nothing will be what it used to be.
Yes.
So we've come out of an era, we're into another era. Now, what's most intriguing about this, Stephen, is we don't really have a label for this era we're in. It's still very fluid.
Oh, yeah.
It's not through manifesting. And so the challenge here is, as leaders, we've got to make sure that we're not just creating iterations, ITERATIONS, of what was, that we are creating evolution for
Yes.
what's never been. And that's very
Yeah.
critical. So when you talk about this evolutionary ecosystem, I think it's important for us to understand the elements that are necessary to make sure that we're not just creating another form of what's been, just new packaging. It's
Right.
the
Right.
same old stuff, just that we just repackaged and repurposed it. That no, this ecosystem of shift is not going to allow us to repurpose. I thought about something while you were sharing. I read this saying once that says, if you don't know where you want to go, then any way will get you there because you're not going anywhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And a lot of people operate that way. They've got vision, they've got goals,
Yep.
They've even got the right tools, but they have not come to a place of critical analysis where they do that second step
That's it, man.
in project management, where they say, okay, let me plan. And you hit the nail, you just shared so much, you hit the nail on the head. The reason most people don't plan, let's deal with the elephant in the room, is because planning is boring. Now, for you and I, we're wired different. It's
Correct.
just boring is fun to us. You know, like
Yes, sir.
the more boring it is the better it
The
is,
better.
because
Yeah.
that's where our creativity works. But that's not, I'm going to just say it. They already know it anyway. We're not normal. And that's not normal, right?
And that's why they should hire us, Rick, and bring us on the team to
that's
handle this, to do the heavy lifting that they don't want to do.
That's why we're here. So we letting y'all know now. We're here for the abnormal. So when you hit that spot, you say, okay, this is outside of our normal. Call us. We got you. Call him first. So that way, yeah, call him first. So let's talk about this DNA of an evolutionary ecosystem, because I see some of the leaders right now. They're on the edge of their seat. They sitting in the living room, chilling out, watching this on YouTube, and they like, okay, I needed this. If you're a pastor, you know, you're thinking about what you're going to say to your congregation on Sunday, because you know the summer is coming to an end, and people going back to school, and people are settling in, and you want to give them direction. If you are an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure out the spaces you need to be in. If you're in the corporate space, you're trying to see how you can leverage your influence and your position to
Yeah.
maximize your potential so you don't get stuck. So I know you're waiting to find out, okay, what are these elements to create an evolutionary ecosystem? Stephen, deal with the first element here.
Sure, there has to be curiosity. There has to be the desire to think outside of what has been normal, what has been comfortable for you. One of Einstein's greatest strengths as a scientist was that he was able to discard accepted paradigms when they got in the way of solving the problem.
Will you please say that again, sir?
He was able to discard accepted paradigms when they got in the way of solving the problem. Let me give it to you another way. I'm not going to break it down. You got to come to where I am
Right.
today, but I'll give it to you in another way. What got you here won't necessarily get you there.
Oh, that's it. Mic
Yeah.
drop. Did y'all hear what he just said? What got you here will not get you there. You need to type that in the comments. I know it's a full sentence, and I know in social media we talking sound bites, but that's a full sentence, a sound bite, a whole paragraph, a thesis, a dissertation, a book, all in one. What got you here will not get you there. And that's critical, because there has to be a paradigm shift if you're going to have an evolutionary ecosystem. Even though we're still dealing with the varying degrees of this pandemic, you can't keep your paradigm in pandemic. Let me say that again. Even though we're still dealing with varying degrees of pandemic, with these variants and all of that, don't keep a pandemic mindset. In other words, don't just think, let's get through this. We're hunkering down to survive. No.
Right.
What you need to be thinking is, let's get beyond this.
Yes.
Go from survival to thriving.
Yes.
So shift how you're thinking. And so continue with that train of thought, Stephen, about that curiosity and focusing on strengths.
Sure. Yeah, because innovation is a drawn out process that's involve discovery and insight and finding solutions that transform the industry or the field that you're in. And you've got to look beyond this linear view to the broader picture. When they started working on CDs, tapes were still extremely popular.
Right.
Somebody saw what wasn't being seen and saw where it was going to go and laid the foundation for where the music industry would then go. That, hey, we can have the largest taxi company and not own taxis. And they created Uber. In the words of Karen Clark Sheard, you got to see it before you see it, otherwise you'll never see it. And so
So
that
so hold on. I need y'all to catch this because it's, let me tell you, it's been months since we've been on. So he just been sitting somewhere in a cave just downloading all this stuff like a mad scientist. He just said something. I need you to type this in comments. And the reason I'm having you type it in comments so you don't forget it once we go off. If you're going to be curious, if you're going to focus on strengths, if you're going to create an evolutionary ecosystem, let me encapsulate the profundity of what Stephen just said. You've got to see, in his words, what's never been seen. That's what curiosity is. It's reaching for everything, even when it looks like nothing.
Yes, sir.
Say that again. It's reaching for everything, even when it looks like nothing. This book, Mapping Innovation, it uses Einstein as one of the principal subjects. And when Stephen and I were discussing the book in between reading it, one of the things that we discovered is that a lot of the innovation that we see today didn't start with the person that's credited for it.
Exactly.
So what's attributed and ascribed to Steve Jobs didn't start with Steve Jobs. It didn't start with Bill Gates. It actually goes back, Stephen, what would you say? I think with some of this stuff with technology, it's like 10 generations
Yes,
of
sir.
innovators.
Yes, sir.
You know, they may all be in the same century, but it's like 10 generations of innovators. And what's interesting, with each evolution, what the next generation created didn't look anything like what the intention was of that piece of technology before that.
That's right. And they weren't all from the same arena, the same
No.
genre, the same industry. And so let me talk straight to pastors. Stop just looking at other preachers and pastors and ministries for ideas and how to move ministry forward. Get outside of the convention, the Congress, your conference, your denomination. Get outside the Bible. There's other stuff that can help you do what you do better. But Rick, the key thing is you got to know where your area of strength is.
Yes.
And tap into other people who have areas of strength in that same space, even if they're not a part of the same arena that you're operating in, and glean from that. And then staff people around you, surround yourself with people who can help to edify the strengths that you as the leader bring to the table.
So you want to accuse Stephen of heresy. And he could be a tad bit heretical from time to time. No, I'm just
I celebrate that.
But before you accuse him of that, understand what he just said. When he said get outside the Bible, that's accurate, because the Bible gives us message and meaning. It doesn't give us methodology. As a matter of fact, it can't give us methodology. You know why? Because even though the Bible is applicable to us, it wasn't written to us.
Exactly.
It's designed for us to use as a roadmap in cases, some areas of blueprint, but it wasn't written to us. So you can't take scriptural methodology that was designed for a particular time, a particular place, a particular people, and make that a template for the 21st century. There are people that do it. That's heretical, right? That's sinful, because you're imposing something on people that they're not even designed to do. So if you're going to, and we're talking to pastors right now, this in principle, this can apply to any leader, relevant for any leader, but I'm just staying in the vein that Stephen's in, because I think that's great, Stephen. It's important to understand that when it comes to methodology, now you're going to get me in trouble. Everything you need to know what you need to do is not just in the Bible. Okay? Understand that. Ricky Allmon said it. Again, the Bible gives message and meaning. It does not give methodology. You have to discover the methodology that works for you. As a matter of fact, I got Bible on going beyond Bible. Jesus said to his disciples, greater works, Stephen, this is your fault now. So all the hate mail, I was about to give an email address. Send it to him. Just DM me. I'll send you his email, because all the hate mail going to him. Jesus said to his disciples, greater works than these shalt thou do. Now you got to understand when he said that, Romans wasn't written yet. Well, forget that. Luke hadn't written Acts yet, okay, to O Theophilus. All right? So he couldn't say, go to Ephesians. You want to know what the greater works look like? Go to Second Corinthians, Second Thessalonians. They didn't exist. What he was saying is when I leave here, I'm going to leave you with other people just like you who are going to live through things that I haven't seen. But I'm going to leave my who I am with you so that you will have the capacity to know what to do. So
Yes, sir.
that's where that curiosity comes in. That's where you've got to focus on. And here's what I need you to hear, leader, entrepreneur, corporate executive, whatever context of leadership you're in. Stop focusing on good and focus on great. Stephen, I just want you to take a few minutes before we go to the second element in this DNA of an evolutionary ecosystem. Take a few minutes and talk to us about how to focus on great, because that's challenging. I mean, our default oftentimes
Yeah.
is to good because good is comfortable, good is convenient. We're familiar with it, but it's not always the most productive place. So how can one make that shift
Sure thing.
and go to the next dimension of great and beyond good?
Yeah, my good friend Cavanch Ross, your friend as well.
Yes,
He
sir.
says it this way: what is it that you will put on this earth, this planet, to do that nobody else can do better than you? That if you don't do, it won't get done.
That's great.
That is where we have to focus our energy, our thoughts, and our attention, and zero in on that thing or that couple of things for those of us that are multi-gifted and
Right.
multi-talented, and spend all of your energy right there in that space, because good is the enemy of great. And
Right.
when we go back and just stay at that good level, we miss out on so much in our life and blessing the world around us. So quit miss me with this whole work on your weaknesses. No, because
No.
they will only grow to a certain point.
Right.
That area that you kill superwoman in, that's the space and the place that you got to stay in, continue to build upon, continue to focus in. Look, Shaq was spending hours at the free throw line. His percentage only went up a couple of percentage points out of all that practicing. That ain't where he was
No.
dominant at. When he spent his energy in the space and place that he was dominant in, he was breaking backboards and blocking shots
Right.
and doing what needed to be done to win all the championship rings he won. Stay in the place where you dominate, please.
And you know what? I just thought about this. Weakness only has one purpose. It's designed to motivate you to focus on what you're great at. That's the
That's
only
it.
purpose of weakness. It's to show you I would be wasting my time, my energy, my resources if I, like you said about Shaq, if I continue to do this. Let me throw my time into the thing that I'm great at. You know, it's sort
Yes.
of like, you know, Stephen, both you and I put a premium value on health and fitness. You know, I try to walk 10 miles 3 to 5 days a week, play golf regularly. You're in the gym trying to become He-Man. You know, lifting 300, 500 pounds, you know. So, but even with that, the key to our productivity, and you tell me if I'm wrong with this, is when just because it's leg day, don't mean you try to make your legs double their size. Your trainer will target certain areas to work on
Correct.
because there's certain areas your you know your quads may be stronger, uh, your calves may, and he'll say, okay, this is where we need to build at. You see what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Exactly.
This and this is what we're going to approach. Find where you're great at. Find that sweet spot and throw your attention there. We ain't giving y'all no more than that. We could talk about that one all day. Let's go to this second point. The second point is once you become curious and focus on your strengths, number two, you've got to have collaboration. And
Yep.
we've shared this before, but the reason for this podcast is because of Stephen and I's organic collaboration.
Yes.
So we're not doing this because we thought, oh, let's have a podcast. It was out of our organic collaboration pre-pandemic just when we would brainstorm and talk about ideas, and it wasn't in a meeting, it was just in casual hangout. But
Yes, sir.
because of how we're wired, by the time the pandemic came, again, evolution, we immediately begin to think, okay, how can we serve the world around us
Correct.
in this digital space with the concepts and the ideas that we share with each other on a weekly basis? That's the power of collaboration. And what collaboration does, collaboration serves as a catalyst. I need you to get this. It serves as both a catalyst and a cultivator of your greatness. If
Yes.
I can make scripture reference again, the Bible says, iron sharpeneth iron. That's why if you're an eagle, you can't bring chickens into your inner circle, because if you're not careful, you'll start taking on chicken tendencies.
Yes, sir.
It won't change your identity, but it could change your behavior. And if it
Yeah.
changes your behavior, it'll start changing your results. And so it's critical that you engage people and create a structure. So, and Stephen's getting ready to talk about this as it relates to your staffing, because this is one of his sweet spots when it comes to project development and organizational development. It's imperative, I need you to get this. It's imperative that you bring people around your life who understand the best of who you are, and then who have tools that complement the best of you so that you can magnify it, or in corporate speak, so you can leverage it
Yes.
to create more. Stephen, talk about that, particularly in a staffing construct, because a lot of people are challenged because they're now in a hybrid model, because most organizations are working, many of them still 100% virtual, and then you got
Mhm.
others who are doing a hybrid of that, about 50-50. Let's talk about the nuances of staffing and why it's critical to do a serious analysis of who you
Sure.
bring around you so you can maximize what you're great at.
Yeah, it's important because there are only two types of problems that you face: people problems or process problems.
Say that one
And
more time.
two types of problems that you'll face: people problems or process problems. And once you get the processes ironed out, smoothed out, streamlined, you're running effectively and efficiently, then you'll discover who they won't be able to hide anymore behind the
Right.
processes that are outdated and out of order. I had a recent client, a church, and they were going through some staffing issues. And as I did my observations of the staff, I discovered something. As I talked to that senior leader, I told the senior leader, who was a basketball fan, you've got to imagine that your organization is an NBA level organization.
Right.
And the problem that I see as I look at your staff is that instead of having franchise players on your team, you've got D League players, and you've got those unfamiliar with the NBA. The D League is like the minor leagues. The practice players are individuals that play pretty well. They're killed on the they gonna kill the game, but they're not at the level of being an NBA player and being drafted into the league. And
So you
so they bring
hold
them
on. So
in.
you told him, you told this leader, he had D League players as his first league, as his first team.
Yeah, he had D League players and practice players instead of NBA level franchise players on his team.
Wow.
Where in essence, Rick, he had volunteers
I,
who had been elevated to staff positions,
I understand.
who didn't have the calling nor the capacity to add value to the organization.
So in other words, he just used who was available, who
There
may
was a
not have
warm,
had the ability.
yes, it was a warm body syndrome. Let me
I
put
understand.
somebody in this place. Let me encourage their deficiencies by giving them title and position and power that they don't earn, haven't deserved.
Mhm.
And I'll say this to any leader that's watching: team couldn't get fired by you today and find that same position in another organization, you need to question why you have them in the position in your organization.
Say that one more time.
If the
Say that.
people on your team could not get fired today, apply for the same position in another organization, and get that same job in another organization, why are they in your organization in that position?
So let's do a deeper dive here. If you'll indulge me, Stephen, give me 2 minutes more to stay on this. What are I don't need a particular number of these. It could be one, two, it could be five. But what are some of the qualities, some of the attributes that leaders need to look for to make sure? And you can deal with this from the pro or the con. You can deal with the attributes that shows this person is not competent enough to be on your A team.
Yeah.
And you could also deal with the things that you want on your A team in that individual. So just deal with a couple of both. What
Great.
is it that you don't want? What is it that you do want?
One, you want people that share the same core values as you.
Great.
There has to be that equal yokage. If I can go a little spiritual,
Go
you
ahead.
got to
Let's go.
equally yoked in terms of your core values. You want people on the team that you know that they're going to function with integrity. Um, yeah, let's just stop right there. They're going to function with integrity in
Right.
what they do as they ultimately represent you and your leadership. So
Right.
you want that. You want somebody who's called to what they're doing.
Oh, that's good.
Now, for those outside of the spiritual space, you want somebody, let me reframe the wording there.
Right.
But I think it still applies. I think that even in a secular space, you can be called to what you do,
Yes.
meaning that's the purpose. That's what God created this person to do.
Yes.
That is where they shine. That's where they win. This is not training grounds. Stop hiring people for training grounds at no, they got to go train somewhere else.
Right.
You're running a top-notch organization, so you need people that can hit the ground running.
Right.
Leader, you need to recognize that if you can't leave and be away on sabbatical, rest and relaxation for 2 or 3 months, and trust that everything is going to run smoothly, then you need to question why you have that person on your team. You ought to be able to walk away. You ought to be able to die, and your organization even without
Yeesh.
your presence and your participation, because you got quality, competent, qualified people that are in place and position that can run without you holding their hand, because you're not running an adult daycare. You're running an organization.
Yeah, and if you can't disappear and people don't know you're gone, then you need to revisit who you're leaving behind. Let me say that again. If you can't disappear and people don't, oh, I didn't even know Pastor was gone. Things ran so smooth. I didn't know the CEO wasn't here. I didn't know that the owner of this business wasn't around. You know why? Because they've got the right DNA. And that's very critical. And that brings us to our third point. Listen, you all, this is very challenging for us. The reason this is challenging for us is because we're trying to make concise. So if you see our eyes rolling back in our head, we're trying to cherry pick to make sure we give you salient points. It's sort of like the cash and carry. It's not the big super Walmart. We're trying to make this concise, comprehensive, compact,
Yeah.
succinct, so you can just come in, get what you need, and then do something with it. So this is challenging because we could easily, and we're considering now how we can roll out a process with some leaders. It will be invitation only, where we can engage you in an ongoing coaching process. So stay tuned because we're working on that now. So you won't just get this 45 minutes of salient sound bites, but where we can walk you through a process that would work particularly specifically for your organization. So third point. So the first point in the DNA of an evolutionary ecosystem is you got to have curiosity, focus on where you're great,
Yeah.
forget about the area of your weakness. Number two, you got to have collaboration. You got to create a structure that will facilitate your areas of greatness. Let's talk about this number three, Stephen.
Yeah.
Constant critique and calibration. You and I want to say this has been a recurring theme from the beginning of this pandemic in March 2020 unto now.
Yeah.
We've had this discussion for between us personally about our own personal and professional development and expansion. We've had this conversation as it comes to us consulting with others and working alongside others.
Yep.
Let's talk about how critical this third element of an evolutionary ecosystem is, this constant critique and calibration, which feeds the strategy of whatever your ecosystem is. Let's talk about why it's important and why it's, let's talk about the part that we often ignore with this. What makes it so uncomfortable?
Yeah, man. Listen, Rick, again, creating new paradigms is enormously difficult because it's going to require us to throw out ideas that we thought were working. And now we have to eliminate, we have to go through that grief process.
Right.
We don't want to grieve. We don't want to let go of what has worked before, or it may not even be working, but the context in which we're in, that those are the standard operating procedures. So we just
Right.
keep pressing, knowing nothing's gonna change. But we got to get to that point where we inspect what we expect. For us
Okay,
to
say
be
that one more time.
we got to grow to the place where we're inspecting what we're expecting, so that we can then come back and make the needed and necessary changes to get us where we want to go. It has to be constant critique. So I went through those 5 phases of a project: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and controlling.
Mm-hmm.
That's phase 4. That's happening while execution is taking place. You're checking the baselines and you're looking for variances. Because if it's off, if it's too high or too low, too fast or too slow, that means something is wrong.
Right.
And so we got to constantly check things and tweak things to get to that place where we can close out the project within scope, on time, and within budget. Those are the triple constraints of any project. And
In scope, on time, and on budget.
on budget.
That's it.
Those are the goals. Those are the constraints, the triple constraints. And so that's what that we can only get there if we're constantly critiquing and calibrating along the way.
And I think it's critical to understand. Oftentimes people want to put strategy above structure, but here is the fatal flaw of that.
Preach, man.
You can only carry your vision as far as those around you can carry it.
Yes, sir.
So you can have you can have $1 billion strategy, but if you got a 10-cent structure, it's DOA. I mean, everybody around you, including you, is going to buckle,
Yes.
bend, break under the pressure. And
Yeah.
so it's critical for you to make sure that that structure is right first, that you got the right collaborators. And then out of that collaboration, you need to make sure you got people around you. Stephen, I think this is critical. With collaboration and structure, we need initiators. But when it comes to strategy, you need critical thinkers.
Correct, man. Yes, sir.
And that's challenging to find. Somebody said healthy things grow, growing things change, change brings conflict. So you got to have people that are initiators, you got to have people that's critical thinkers. But then let's end this, Stephen, with talking about, because this is very critical when it comes to strategy and critique and calibration. Let's talk about the role emotional intelligence has to play.
Sir.
Because mental health is where it is. I just wrote an ebook. I encourage you to get it, called Press Reset: Train Your Thoughts to Create Your Future.
Yes.
And you just go to RickyAllmon.org. This is a shameless plug, but this is our platform, so we can plug
That's right.
wherever we want, whenever we want. But go to RickyAllmon.org. Just click Press Reset. It's literally $5. You click the link, it's going to download immediately onto your device. That's what our world looks like now. That's an example of what our world looks like. People don't want to go through 10 stages. No, you do that 10 stages in your planning. So all
That's
they
it.
got to do is hit one button
One click.
and have the next 10 years of their life. So
Yes, sir.
leaders, that's how you got to think. But that's what I wrote this press reset book for, because it's important for you to have people around you who are emotionally stable enough, who are not thin skinned, who are not fickle, who are not hypersensitive. I mean, when you're trying to move faster than the speed of light, you don't have time to disclaimer. Now, I think you're doing good. You've been doing great. Like, we glad to have you in our organization, but I really wish you could tweak things. I really wish you would think more so you wouldn't make so. We ain't got time to do that. We're moving faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
And if I got people on my team that have to be nursed, if I got people on my team that have to be coddled,
right.
I always tell people there are very few things, Stephen, that are my pet peeves. Very few. I feel like I've been fortunate to, be pretty balanced and fairly patient.
Yes, sir.
But one of the things that makes my skin turn backwards is having to patronize people.
Understood.
I kind of have a zero tolerance. It just, I itch beneath the epidermis when it comes to that. And in leadership, it's important to have people around you that don't. Now, of course, you don't want to. You shouldn't be verbally abusive, especially in this world, this climate we're in today. You do want to be considerate of a person's personality, yes, but at the same time, you don't want to get to the place where you're so careful that you can't stretch them. Correct. And challenge them and push them. Or else, as Stephen said earlier, why are they in your organization? So, Stephen, let's talk just in these closing moments about the importance of emotional intelligence. Because a person can be an initiator, a person can be a critical thinker, but if they don't have this emotional intelligence, they can literally atrophy all of your progress. Matter of fact, they can send you into a regressive state.
Exactly.
Instead of progress. So speak to that.
Man, you didn't spoke to all of it.
No, I didn't. No, I was just setting it up. That's all. Look, I was dribbling. That's all I was doing. I was just dribbling.
Yeah, you're totally correct, man. And for any pastors that are tuned into this, Peter Scazzaro is an amazing resource on building emotional intelligence in leadership for your congregation and your staff. That's something that we actually took our staff through when I was a part of a team in Atlanta, the emotionally healthy spirituality, because we discovered that so many people are spiritual giants, yet they're emotional midgets. And really the two need to be
really, dude. Really? You just had to. That's how we gonna end today? Can you please say that? Well, since you out there, say it please one more time.
They're emotional midgets, and the two can't function like that. There has to be balance between the two.
Spiritual giants. That's a whole show. That's a whole show right there. Spiritual giants.
But emotional midgets.
I feel like we need a moment of silent meditation. I'm tempted to have you elucidate on that, but we won't. We promise y'all that's a Patreon show, because we going all the way in. So on Patreon, y'all, Stephen's censored today, and I didn't censor him. I mean, he's my brother. So I don't know, he's censored today, but in Patreon, it's coming. So that's going to be the first show.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Spiritual giants, emotional midgets. But talk about that a little more.
Yeah, we've got to reach this place with our emotions where we gain control over our emotions instead of allowing our emotions to control us.
Yes.
And it's fine to feel every one of our. Telling somebody to quit talking about, I feel some kind of way. No, there's a name for that emotion. I need you to name it so that you can process through it. And recognize that it's part of human nature for us to feel all of it. And being created in the image of God, there's no emotion that's a bad emotion. Oh, you can't feel that. You can't deal with anger. No, God dealt with anger. Read your Old Testament. we've got to embrace all of what and who we are as human beings and work on those places and spaces within us,
Right.
understand what the triggers are, what the source is, so that we don't just focus on the symptoms, and we can grow into being healthier versions of ourselves, to be able to tolerate and deal with and not be triggered by so much
I
that
think
could
that's a
then
perfect
again.
segue. That's a perfect segue for you to talk about the books that you have and the movement that you are facilitating. I want to say this. I like to say emotions are the symptoms of being human.
Yes, sir, I like that.
That's what it is. Emotions are the symptoms of being human. That I mean, and we made biblical references. It's just who we are. That's why the Bible says we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling singular of our infirmity. Basically, what the scripture is saying is there is one system, this humanity that serves as the etiology of all of our infirmities, right? So it's out of being human. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
Correct.
Because and to Stephen's point, don't say you feel some kind of way. Just say how you feel. I'm mad. I'm sad. I'm worried. Because if you don't give it a name, if
Yeah.
you don't identify it, then you try going. Okay, here it is. Let's make this plain, Stephen. This is your fault again. Uh, Go to the hospital right now and say, I just feel some kind of way. Well, Ricky, how you feel? I don't know. I just you don't, especially today, you don't want to just go in there talking about you need to pinpoint where it is, or they'll be giving you something for something that you don't have, that when you
That you don't
leave, you'll
have.
be worse than you were when you went.
Correct.
Well, that's the same thing that happens in life. If you go through life just living in your, and you have some people, here's the other thing they say, Stephen, I'm in my feelings. Well, get out of them.
Right.
Get out your feelings. But Stephen has several books, and he has a movement that he facilitates. He does a live stream on Tuesdays, and I want you to connect to all of this. I could really do his commercial for him. I'd prefer to do it. You can go to StephenJThurston.com, but I want him to talk about it a little bit more. But go to StephenJThurston.com. Whatever he has available, just download all of it. I'm serious. So you want to get mirror moments. You want to get the book that he wrote in the middle of the pandemic, Unplugged.
Yeah.
And when you read Unplugged, you just gonna start unplugging everything. Like don't unplug us, but you just gonna start pulling plugs out the wall, literally. You just gonna go sit in Morocco somewhere. Uh, but yeah, so get mirror moments, get unplugged, his ebook. Go to StephenJThurston.com, subscribe, follow him. I'm not going to tell you to stalk him because he has enough of that.
Yes, sir.
So don't do that, please. But definitely subscribe and follow him, Stephen. Any area that you want to cover? See, that's real brothers. He don't even know what I know about what he does. This ain't rehearsed. This is my brother, and I value his genius. And so I just needed you to know, and I didn't want him to have to say it because he gets kind of, y'all see that laugh? That's a nervous laugh. It's not real. Uh, he's turning red for real. But yeah, I wanted you to know that because I promise you, uh, your life, um, your ministry, your business, your career, and then he does some amazing work when it comes to relationship. And the thing I respect about what he does is as a single professional successful male, he's navigating all the nuances of relationship. And so I think you, if you, especially if you're single or you're a single professional, he's somebody you want to follow. He's somebody you want to connect to. So, Stephen, any part of that you want to talk about, I think I've covered it, but you know.
You've covered it well. Thank you, Rick. But the Mirror Moment Movement, that is a subscription service where you can get content on a monthly basis on leadership, relationship, or you can do both tracks. There's a discount if you do both. But every month you're getting ebooks, assessments, assignments, a wealth of different resources on a multiplicity of topics. and you get fresh stuff. So you don't get it on my Facebook Live or on my post. This is fresh content that you get every month. And again, you can access that on my website, StephenJThurston.com. Thank you, Rick. And
Man,
y'all go, before you get my stuff, you go get Ricky's stuff at RickyAllmon.com. And then follow him on Patreon. And that's where we're coming next. This episode you're going to get here, you got to go to Patreon moving forward to
yes.
get all of this great content that we're dropping.
This is the last show that we're putting out on these platforms. All of our future shows is going to be on Patreon. So you want to go to patreon.com/Ricky Allmon Live. And that's exciting because not only will you get content, and we're going to do, some impromptu stuff, just things you haven't seen us do before. It's going to be unfiltered. It's going to be uncut.
Yes, sir.
And then you also get free ebooks. So every time I put out a new ebook, Stephen put out a new ebook, you'll automatically, can you imagine that? You won't have to go look for it. It's going to
Yeah.
automatically be sitting in Patreon. And if you have that subscription level, you'll automatically get it. So go to patreon.com/Ricky Allmon Live. And then I also have something called Life Sessions. That's coaching and mentorship that deals with your professional growth, personal growth, and relationship growth. So, in any area or aspect of your life, if you just need somebody to walk with you or walk you out of you, because sometimes we can get in our own way, go to rickyallmon.org, click Life Sessions, and I'll give you a free consultation. All you got to do is schedule it at your convenience. You have a 15-minute free consultation. And then from there, you pick the level of mentorship and coaching that you want. And then, of course, don't forget to go and get my latest ebook, Press Reset. Well, listen, this has been The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. It will be live streamed. We're so glad that you're here. We want you to make sure that you go to patreon.com/Ricky Allmon Live because you don't want to miss the next episode of this. Of course, it's subject to change, but I really want us to talk about how people can be spiritual giants. And what you say they were, Stephen?
Emotional midgets.
I just wanted him to say that part. That's all. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you next time. And Stephen's going to tell you what he's going to do.
Uh-huh.